Empire of the Sun. Is it Spielberg's best film? It definitely has a unique story and amazing cinematography. However, it is one of Spielberg's least profitable films and even considered a flop when the money it made is compared to the profits made by Jaws and Jurassic Park, as well as many other of his films. However, it is one of his most highly rated films when you look at critics' reviews. Why should we consider this movie, which has made such modest money compared to his other films, as one of his best? Knowing the story, knowing what sells at the box office, Spielberg probably knew Empire of the Sun wasn't going to be anywhere near as profitable as other films he made before. I think he wanted to make Empire of the Sun because he was truly passionate about the story, a story which is based on a book. The screenplay was written by Tom Stoppard and based on the 1984 novel Empire of the Sun by JG Ballard. Tom Stoppard based the screenplay very closely on the novel. In the making of documentary, The China Odyssey, Spielberg has an open copy of the book during filming. He obviously was passionate about the book as well. Ballard himself was also present during the shooting. He's also interviewed as part of the making of documentary, and he fully supported how the film told his story. The spirit of the novel is perfectly captured by Spielberg. This is one of those films where if you love the film, you will love the book it's based on. You will love the book it's based on. Why is the story so unique and captivating? The novel Empire of the Sun is semi-autobiographical, describing Ballard's childhood from the ages of around 11 to 15 during the Second World War in Shanghai. Both Ballard and Spielberg have said the novel Empire of the Sun is 50% fiction and 50% fact. Certainly all of the historical events are 100% accurate. Except for some minor changes, the film follows the story of the book. This is a summary of the film. Jamie is an English schoolboy living with his parents in luxury in the international settlement of Shanghai, one of the true global cities of the time, and a truly capitalistic and international city. Jamie loves planes, identifying them from their sound as they fly over his house. He has many model airplanes. In the beginning of the film, the Japanese have already taken over most of the countryside, but in Shanghai, it's business as usual. Many foreigners think that the war between Japan and China is not really affecting them. All this changes after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. The Japanese invade Shanghai. In the chaos, Jim is separated from his parents. He returns to his house, which is deserted, and lives there on his own before he's forced to go looking for food in Shanghai. Facing starvation, he tries to surrender to the Japanese soldiers who just ignore him. After nearly being robbed, he bumps into an American who takes him to his hideout. This is where he meets Basie, an American ship steward who is hiding out in Shanghai, trying to find a way to profit from the war. Basie calls Jamie Jim. Basie tries first to sell him to some Chinese merchants. Then he goes to Jamie's house because Jamie tells them that there are lots of very expensive items there. And this is where they all get arrested by the Japanese. Jim and Basie are sent to a holding center for civilians, which is also overrun with dysentery and other diseases. They both manage to get sent to an internment camp next to a runway and airbase. Jamie learns very quickly that teaming up with others is useful, but only when it benefits you. The film cuts to a few years later where Jamie, called Jim by the Americans, seems to be flourishing in the camp. He struck up a friendship with the Japanese boy who lives on the airbase. He's friends with both Dr. Ransom, the camp doctor, and Basie, the unofficial head of the American group. As the war progresses, the Japanese start losing to the Allies. While this is good news for the Allies, it's actually bad in the short term for the civilians in the camp. The Japanese lower the camp food rations and then stop them altogether, forcing the internees to march to a deserted stadium where there's also no food. Jim and the other starving internees are in a stadium full of luxury goods and cars. Jim sees the atom bomb exploding in Japan and thinks it's the soul of a woman who just passed. Jim leaves the stadium by himself and hears on a radio that Japan has surrendered and the war is over. A canister full of food is dropped by an American plane, and it seems that Jim is saved. He sees his Japanese friend, who gives him a mango. At this moment, Basie and his crew appear, and one of them shoots the Japanese boy. Jim tries to revive him, and in doing so is trying to revive his childhood self. We see Jim living in the camp again, living on the canister food when the Americans arrive and he's saved. The last scene shows him reunited with his parents. The actors were superstars at the time of filming. Both John Malkovich and Christian Bale went on to very successful careers, as well as Ben Stiller, who has a small role as the guy who tells the Hershey bar joke. The main characters are Christian Bale as Jamie or Jim. Jim is the main character and is present in practically every scene. Everything which happens in the film is from his point of view. The story is his journey from boyhood to manhood and how the war affects it. John Malkovich is Basie. Basie is a survivor. Jim learns from him throughout the film. Yes, Basie plays with Jim's life multiple times, but he doesn't ignore him as many other adults do. The Japanese kamikaze boy. Credited as the kamikaze boy, this character is the only one who is not in the book. The book references that when the war was going in favor of the Japanese in the early years, that Jim befriends some of them and he would actually hang out with them and they would let him try on their armor and even play fight with him. The kamikaze boy is a mirror image of Jim. He is roughly the same age, has a toy gliding plane. He also does not know or care of the reason for the war. In the last days of the war, he is conscripted as a kamikaze pilot. However, his plane doesn't start. When Jim sees him after the war near the camp, he has also been abandoned with all the other Japanese soldiers in China and knows they have lost the war. After a short temper tantrum, he offers Jim a mango. This is a beautiful moment, but Basie reappears with a group of ex-prisoners. One of them shoots the boy. Jim tries to revive him, and in doing so imagines he's trying to revive his childhood self before the war, but he cannot save the boy or his childhood innocence. And this highlights two main themes of the film: the loss of childhood innocence and the effects of war on civilians. Another theme highlighted here, as well as in the book, is the dangerous time just after a war has ended. During war there are rules. After the war ends, there are no rules, which could make this an even more dangerous time than the actual war. On a battlefield, how do soldiers and civilians really know when a war is over? Both cinematography and soundtrack are of the highest quality. The scenes depicting Shanghai were shot in Shanghai on location. During filming in 1986, China was still closed off to the world, and the film crew were the first foreign crew to film on location in Shanghai since the 1930s. Whole blocks were closed off and thousands of extras were used for the scenes of the Japanese invading Shanghai. Real planes as well as lifelike models were used for the aircraft. All the action scenes are amazing. The soundtrack is also especially moving, with Jamie singing the intro soundtrack in the choir of his school, as well as later on in the camp. JG Ballard's life and story are really what make this film truly special, and the way Spielberg captured them and adapted them for the screen. Ballard was born and raised in the international settlement of Shanghai. He went to England for the first time before he attended university and spent the rest of his life there. Returning for the first time to Shanghai during the filming of Empire of the Sun. He became a writer and is famous for his surrealist stories, most of which have also been adapted to film, for example Crash and High Rise. It was in 1984, when he was already an established writer, that he wrote and published Empire of the Sun. In 2009, JG Ballard wrote an autobiography, Miracles of Life. Empire of the Sun is a semi-autobiography with a good element of fiction. Miracles of Life is an autobiography where Ballard details both his and his parents' lives before, during, and after the war in the international settlement and in the internment camp, as well as his later life in England leading up to the present. Miracles of Life is a must-read for fans of Empire of the Sun. There are details of Ballard's life which are just as fascinating, if not more so, than the events which take place in Empire of the Sun. If you like this video, please like, subscribe and comment. Thanks and see you soon.